Elena Vasquez pressed her face against the cold metal wall of the processing station. Through the small window, she could see Earth spinning slowly below. The planet looked sick. Brown scars covered what used to be green forests. Gray smoke rose from massive mining sites. The oceans were a dirty yellow color instead of blue. 300 years. That's how long the Zephyrians had been taking everything from Earth. That's how long humans had been slaves. Elena pulled away from the window and walked back to her workstation. Around her, hundreds of other humans worked in silence. They sorted metals and crystals that came up from Earth's surface. The work never stopped. If someone stopped working, the Zephyrian guards would use their shock sticks. The Zephyrians were tall and thin. Their skin was pale blue and they had 4 arms. They thought humans were stupid animals. Elena had heard them talking when they thought no humans were listening. They called humans useful meat and breeding stock. Elena's grandmother used to tell her stories about the old days. Before the Zephyrians came, humans had built ships that could travel between stars. They had cities in space and colonies on other planets. They had been free, but Elena had never seen proof of these stories. The Zephyrians had destroyed all human records when they took over. They said humans had always been primitive. They said humans should be grateful to serve a superior race. Today felt different, though. Elena was working on the old section of the station. This part had been built by humans long ago before the conquest. Most of it was broken now, but the Zephyrians still used it for storage. Elena was moving boxes of processed ore when she noticed something strange. One of the wall panels was loose. Behind it, she could see old cables and wires. These looked different from Zephyrian technology. They looked human. She looked around quickly. The nearest guard was watching workers on the other side of the room. Elena carefully pulled the panel away from the wall. Behind the panel was a small space filled with old human equipment. Most of it was broken, but one device still had a blinking light. Elena had never seen anything like it, but somehow she knew it was important. She grabbed the device and quickly put the panel back. Her heart was beating fast. If the guards caught her with human technology, they would kill her. But something inside her said she had to take the risk. Elena hid the device under her work clothes. She finished her shift without anyone noticing anything strange. When the workday ended, she went back to her small room in the worker housing area. Elena's room was tiny. Just a bed, a small table, and a waste unit. Like all human quarters, it had no windows and only one door. The walls were gray metal and always cold. She waited until late at night when she was sure the guards were not doing their rounds. Then she pulled out the device. In the dim light of her room, she could see it better. It was about the size of her hand, made of metal and plastic. Strange symbols covered one side. Elena touched one of the symbols. The device suddenly came to life. A blue light appeared above it, showing words in the air. Elena gasped and almost dropped the device. She had never seen anything like this before. The words were in English, but they used terms Elena didn't understand. Something about military archives and classified data storage. There were numbers and codes that meant nothing to her. But then she found something that made her hands shake. A section labeled Historical Records, Human Space Command. Elena touched those words. New text appeared, along with pictures that moved like little movies. She saw humans in strange clothes working with advanced machines. She saw massive ships flying between stars. She saw Earth as it used to be, green and blue and beautiful. The device was full of information. Technical plans for weapons and ships. Records of human colonies on dozens of planets. Military strategies and battle reports. Most importantly, it contained the true history of humanity's war with the Zephyrians. Elena learned that humans had not been primitive when the Zephyrians attacked. They had been exploring space for over 200 years. They had built an empire that covered 50 star systems. They had technology that could do amazing things. The Zephyrians had won not because they were superior, but because they had surprised humanity during a time of peace. They had used biological weapons to kill billions of humans before anyone could fight back. Then they had destroyed all records of human achievement and rewritten history. But the most shocking thing Elena discovered was what humans had been like as warriors. The files contained detailed analysis of human military tactics. According to the records, humans were considered one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy when they chose to fight. The reports described human soldiers as unpredictably creative and willing to use any method to achieve victory. There were accounts of humans turning farming tools into weapons, using their own ships as bombs and fighting even when victory was impossible. One report made Elena's blood run cold. It was written by a Zephyrian commander after a battle on a human colony world. The commander wrote, "These creatures do not fight like civilized beings. They fight like cornered animals. They turn everything into a weapon. They would rather die than surrender. I recommend avoiding direct combat when possible." Elena spent hours reading the files. She learned about human inventions that the Zephyrians had stolen and claimed as their own. She learned about resistance groups that had fought for decades after the conquest. Most importantly, she learned that some humans had hidden weapons and technology before the final defeat. According to the files, there were secret storage sites on dozens of worlds. Military equipment, weapons, and even ships were waiting in hidden bunkers. The locations were marked in the device's memory. Elena realized she was holding something that could change everything. This device proved that humans had once been great. It proved that they could be great again. But it also showed her something else. The Zephyrians were afraid of humans. That's why they had worked so hard to keep humans ignorant of their own history. That's why they treated humans like animals instead of prisoners of war. They knew that if humans ever remembered what they used to be, the Zephyrians would be in terrible danger. Elena looked at the device in her hands and made a decision. She could not keep this knowledge to herself. Other humans needed to know the truth. They needed to remember what they were capable of, but she had to be careful. If she moved too fast or trusted the wrong people, the Zephyrians would find out. They would destroy the device and kill everyone involved. Elena needed to find others who could be trusted, people who still had the fire of resistance burning inside them. She thought about Marcus, who worked in the communications section. He was always asking questions about the old days. There was also Sarah, who worked in maintenance. Sarah had access to many parts of the station that others could not reach. Elena carefully hid the device again. Tomorrow she would begin the most dangerous mission of her life. She would start sharing the truth with other humans. She would help them remember what they used to be. Outside her small window, Earth continued to spin in space, wounded and scarred, but still alive, still waiting for its children to come home. Elena closed her eyes and tried to sleep. But her mind was full of images from the device. Pictures of human ships flying between the stars. Pictures of Earth when it was green and beautiful. Pictures of humans who had been free. Soon, she promised herself. Soon, humanity would remember how to be human again. The first step had been taken. The awakening had begun. Elena had been sharing the truth for 3 weeks now. She started carefully, testing people with small questions about the old days. Marcus from communications was the first to join her. Then Sarah from maintenance. After that, others began to approach them quietly. They met in hidden places around the station. Old storage rooms that the Zephyrians rarely checked. Maintenance tunnels between sections. They had to be very careful. The Zephyrians had listening devices everywhere. Tonight, 12 humans sat in a circle in the old water processing plant. The room was dark except for the soft blue light from Elena's device. She was showing them the technical files, explaining what humans used to know about building ships and weapons. "This is impossible," whispered Tom, an older man who worked in the metal processing section. "Humans could never build things like this." "That's what they want us to believe," Elena said softly. "But look at the proof. These are our own records. Our ancestors built machines that could bend space and time. They built weapons that could destroy entire fleets." Marcus leaned forward to get a better look at the floating images. These quantum manipulation devices, they're incredible. With technology like this, humans could have fought anyone in the galaxy. "We did fight," Sarah said. She had been studying the military records. "For 50 years, humans held off the Zephyrian invasion. We only lost because they used biological weapons against our civilian populations." Elena nodded. The files show that human military commanders were considered the most dangerous in known space. "We didn't just fight wars. We won them." She touched the device and new images appeared. Battle reports from human commanders. Victory records. Tactical innovations that had shocked alien enemies. "Look at this," Elena said, pointing to one report. Human forces took a Zephyrian fleet apart using modified cargo ships and mining equipment. The enemy commander wrote that humans fight without honor because we use every possible advantage. "Fighting without honor," Marcus repeated. "They make it sound like a bad thing." "To them it is," Elena explained. Most alien species fight according to rules. They use specific weapons in specific ways. Humans don't do that. We use whatever works. We adapt, we improvise. We turn anything into a weapon. The group spent hours going through the files. They learned about human colonies that had been completely self-sufficient, worlds where humans had built paradise from nothing, technologies that could heal any injury or feed entire planets. But the most important discovery was the hidden storage sites. The device contained locations of secret military depots on 17 different worlds, places where human weapons and ships were still waiting. These sites could still be active, Sarah said, studying the coordinates. If even one of them survived, we could have access to real weapons. But how do we reach them? Asked Tom. We're prisoners here. We can't just leave the station. Elena had been thinking about this problem for days. We don't need to leave. We need to bring the information to humans who can use it. She explained her plan. The station's communication array was used to send reports to other Zephyrian facilities. Those facilities had human workers too. If they could send hidden messages in the regular transmissions, they could spread the information to humans throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrians don't pay attention to most of our communications, Marcus said. They think we're too stupid to use their technology for anything important. That's our advantage, Elena agreed. They underestimate us. They always have. Over the next few days, the group began their work. Marcus used his access to the communication system to send coded messages to other facilities. The messages looked like routine maintenance reports, but they contained pieces of the archived information. Sarah used her maintenance access to hide copies of the device's data throughout the station. She placed storage units in old ventilation systems and unused equipment bays. If the original device was discovered, they would still have backups. Elena and the others began recruiting more humans. They looked for people who asked questions, who seemed angry about their situation, who still had hope. The group grew slowly but steadily. They also began to prepare for action. Using the technical files, they started to understand how Zephyrian technology worked. They learned which systems were vulnerable, which equipment could be modified, which weapons could be improvised. Elena discovered that the station's mining equipment could be turned into powerful weapons with small modifications. The ore processing machines could be used to create metal components for bombs. Even the food preparation units could be modified to produce chemical compounds. Everything here can be a weapon, she told the group during one of their secret meetings. The Zephyrians built this place using human labor, but they never understood how humans think. They never realized that we see possibilities they don't. The breakthrough came when they received a response to one of Marcus's coded messages. A human worker at a mining facility in the next star system had found their own ancient device. More importantly, they had access to one of the hidden storage sites. The message was hidden in a routine supply request, but Elena's group knew how to decode it. The storage site was active. It contained working human ships and weapons. A group of 50 humans had already begun training with the equipment. It's starting, Elena said as she read the message. Other humans are remembering. Other groups are forming. More messages began to arrive. Human workers at facilities across 3 star systems were finding devices, sharing information, and preparing for action. The network was growing faster than Elena had hoped, but with growth came danger. The Zephyrians began to notice small changes. Equipment failures were becoming more common. Workers were asking more questions. Some humans were displaying behavior that the aliens found concerning. Elena knew they were running out of time. Soon, the Zephyrians would investigate more carefully. They would discover the truth and react with deadly force. The group had to make a choice. They could continue to work slowly and safely, building their network over years, or they could take risks and move quickly while they still had the element of surprise. Elena made the decision during a meeting in the old water plant. We can't wait any longer. Every day we delay, more humans die in these camps. Every day we wait, the Zephyrians get more suspicious. What are you suggesting? Sarah asked. We prepare for rebellion. We use what we've learned to fight back. We show other humans that resistance is possible. The group spent the next week making detailed plans. They identified key systems to sabotage. They located weapons and equipment they could steal or modify. They planned escape routes and safe meeting points. Most importantly, they prepared to send a signal to human groups throughout the galaxy. A coordinated attack that would begin the liberation of humanity. Elena looked at the device one more time. reading through the files about human military doctrine. She understood now why the Zephyrians had worked so hard to keep humans ignorant. They knew that an awakened humanity would be unstoppable. Humans didn't just fight wars. They destroyed enemies completely. They used every advantage, broke every rule, and never gave up. They turned defeats into victories and made weapons from anything available. The Zephyrians had won their initial victory through surprise and biological weapons. But they had made a critical mistake. They had kept humans alive. They had given humanity time to remember what it used to be. Elena smiled as she prepared for sleep. Tomorrow they would begin the final phase of preparation. Soon the Zephyrians would learn why humans had once been feared throughout the galaxy. The awakening was complete. Now came the remembering of how to fight. And humans, Elena knew from the files, were very good at fighting. The rebellion began at exactly midnight station time. Elena had been awake for hours, checking and double-checking every part of their plan. Around the galaxy, human groups at 17 different facilities were preparing for the same coordinated attack. Elena's team had grown to over 200 humans. They had weapons made from mining equipment. They had bombs built from processing chemicals. Most importantly, they had the element of surprise. The first target was the communication center. Marcus and his team moved silently through the maintenance tunnels. They carried explosive devices hidden in tool bags. The Zephyrian guards never suspected that the quiet human workers were actually trained saboteurs. At the same time, Sarah led a group to the power plant. They had spent weeks learning how to overload the station's energy systems. When the time came, they would plunge the entire facility into darkness. Elena positioned herself near the command center with 30 of their best fighters. These humans had studied the military files carefully. They knew how to move like soldiers, how to think like warriors. The signal came through Marcus's communication system. A simple message that said, "Earth remembers." That was the code for all human groups to begin their attacks. Elena's team moved first. They had modified their mining tools into powerful weapons. The cutting lasers could slice through Zephyrian armor. The lifting equipment could crush alien bones. The transport vehicles became battering rams. The first Zephyrian guard died before he could even raise an alarm. Elena's team swarmed over him like a pack of wolves. They took his weapons and moved deeper into the station. The power went out 30 seconds later. Sarah's team had done their job perfectly. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting strange shadows throughout the corridors. The Zephyrians began to panic. Elena could hear alien voices shouting in their language. They were confused and frightened. They had never seen humans act aggressively before. In 300 years of occupation, humans had always been passive and obedient. "Remember," Elena called to her team as they approached the command center. "No mercy. No prisoners." They never showed us any. The command center was defended by 12 Zephyrian soldiers. They had energy weapons and body armor. Under normal circumstances, they could have easily defeated 30 humans with mining tools. But these were not normal circumstances. And these were not normal humans. Elena's team attacked from 3 directions at once. They used tactics from the ancient military files, but adapted them for their current situation. They turned maintenance robots into weapons. They used the station's own atmosphere system to create confusion. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy they did not understand. Humans appeared from ventilation shafts and disappeared into floor panels. They used every piece of equipment as a weapon. They fought like the entire station was their weapon. Elena personally killed the station commander. She used a modified cutting torch to slice through his armor, then finished him with his own sidearm. As he died, she leaned close to his ear. "Tell your gods," she whispered. "Humanity has awakened." Throughout the station, similar battles were taking place. Human workers were revealing themselves as trained fighters. Equipment was being turned into weapons. Zephyrian guards were dying in ways they had never imagined. The aliens tried to organize a counterattack, but they discovered that humans had been preparing for this moment for weeks. Every system they depended on had been sabotaged. Every escape route had been blocked. Every advantage they thought they had was gone. Marcus seized control of the communication array and began broadcasting to the galaxy. His message was simple but powerful. Humanity fights. Humanity lives. Join us. Across space, other human groups heard the message and began their own attacks. Mining colonies erupted in violence. Processing facilities fell to human rebels. Transport ships were captured by their own crews. The Zephyrians had spread humans across dozens of star systems, thinking this would prevent organized resistance. Instead, it meant that the rebellion struck everywhere at once. Elena stood in the captured command center, watching reports come in from around the galaxy. 17 facilities had fallen to human forces. Hundreds of Zephyrian ships had been captured or destroyed. Thousands of aliens were dead. But the most important victory was not military. It was psychological. For 300 years, humans had been told they were weak. They had been treated like animals. They had been made to believe that resistance was impossible. Now they were proving that the Zephyrians had been wrong. Humans were not weak. They were not animals. They were the descendants of warriors who had once dominated this region of space. Elena opened a communication channel to all human groups. Her voice carried across the galaxy to every rebel team, every captured facility, every human who had joined the fight. "Brothers and sisters," she said, "today we remember who we are. Today we show the galaxy what humans can do when we choose to fight." She paused, looking at the faces of her team. These people had been slaves that morning. Now they were soldiers in humanity's war of liberation. The Zephyrians thought they had broken us. They thought they had made us forget our strength. They were wrong. We are the children of Earth. We are the species that turns anything into a weapon. We are the race that never surrenders. Elena activated the station's external sensors and looked at Earth spinning below. The planet was still scarred and wounded, but it was no longer defenseless. Human ships were rising from the hidden storage sites, ships that the Zephyrians had never known existed. The first wave of the rebellion was complete. Every major Zephyrian facility and 3 star systems was now under human control. But Elena knew this was just the beginning. The real war would start when the Zephyrian military responded. They would send fleets to retake the lost facilities. They would try to crush the rebellion before it could spread further. But Elena was not worried. She had read the ancient files. She knew what humans were capable of when they fought for their freedom. The Zephyrians were about to discover why their ancestors had been afraid of humanity. They were about to learn that humans did not just rebel. They destroyed. They conquered. They turned enemies into cautionary tales. Elena looked at the captured Zephyrian weapons and equipment around her. Already her people were studying them, learning how they worked, figuring out how to improve them. Within hours, humans would be building better versions of alien technology. That was another thing the Zephyrians had never understood about humans. They did not just use tools. They improved them. They took any technology and made it more effective, more deadly, more efficient. "Commander," Marcus called from the communication station. "We're receiving a transmission from Zephyrian High Command." Elena smiled. "Put it through." The holographic image of a Zephyrian admiral appeared in the center of the room. The alien looked angry and confused. Behind him, Elena could see other Zephyrians running around in panic. "Human slave," the admiral said in broken English. "Surrender immediately. Your rebellion will be crushed. You will be punished for this crime." Elena stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. She was covered in Zephyrian blood and holding one of their energy weapons. "I am not a slave," she said calmly. "I am Commander Elena Vasquez of the Human Liberation Forces. And you are about to discover why your people should have killed us all 300 years ago." She cut the transmission and turned to her team. "Prepare for the next phase," she ordered. "The Zephyrians will send their fleets against us. When they do, we'll show them what human ingenuity can accomplish." Elena walked to the window and looked out at space. Somewhere out there, Zephyrian warships were already moving toward them. The aliens thought they were coming to crush a simple rebellion. They had no idea they were flying into humanity's trap. The uprising had begun. Now came the real war. 6 months had passed since the first uprising. Elena stood on the bridge of the Defiance, a ship that had once been a Zephyrian dreadnought. Now it flew human colors and carried weapons that no alien engineer had ever imagined. The war had spread across 30 star systems. Everywhere humans fought, they won. Not just battles, but entire campaigns. Zephyrian fleets fled from human forces. Alien colonies surrendered without fighting. Elena watched through the ship's windows as another Zephyrian world burned below them. The aliens had tried to make a stand here. They had built massive defensive platforms and stationed their best troops on the surface. It had not mattered. Humans did not fight the way aliens expected. "Commander," called Lieutenant Torres from the tactical station, The planetary defenses are completely destroyed. The surface installations have surrendered. Elena nodded. Begin the occupation protocol. I want every piece of Zephyrian technology cataloged and studied. If they have ships under construction, convert them to human specifications. This was how humans fought now. They did not just defeat enemies. They took everything useful and made it better. Every captured ship became part of the human fleet. Every captured factory started producing human weapons. The Zephyrians had been horrified to discover that humans could reverse engineer their technology in a matter of days. What took alien scientists years to develop, human engineers could understand and improve within weeks. Ma'am, Torres continued, we're receiving reports from the other battle groups. Admiral Chen's forces have taken the Kepler system. General Rodriguez has broken through Zephyrian lines at Wolf 359. The enemy is retreating on all fronts. Elena smiled. The Zephyrians were learning what their ancestors had known 300 years ago. Humans were not just warriors. They were a force of nature. Once awakened, they could not be stopped. The bridge doors opened and Dr. Sarah Kim entered. She had been Elena's maintenance chief on the original station. Now she was humanity's chief technology officer, responsible for the rapid advancement of human weapons and ships. Elena, Sarah said, I have the analysis you requested on Zephyrian military doctrine. Elena turned from the window. What did you find? Sarah activated a holographic display showing battle formations and tactical movements. The Zephyrians fight according to ancient traditions. They use the same strategies their species has used for thousands of years. They're predictable. How predictable? We can anticipate their moves 3 battles ahead. They always respond to attacks in the same way. They always position their ships in the same formations. They're incapable of true adaptation. Elena studied the display. This explained why human forces had been so successful. The Zephyrians were fighting a traditional war against an enemy that did not follow any traditions. They're confused by our tactics. Sarah continued. Their commanders keep sending reports to High Command asking for instructions on how to fight us. They've never faced an enemy that uses everything as a weapon. Elena thought about the last battle. Human forces had used modified cargo ships to ram Zephyrian cruisers. They had turned mining drones into guided missiles. They had even weaponized their own escape pods, turning them into bombs that could crack enemy armor. Show me the intelligence reports from their captured communications, Elena ordered. Sarah changed the display to show intercepted Zephyrian messages. Elena read through them quickly, and what she saw made her laugh. The alien commanders were terrified. They called humans chaos beings and warriors without honor. They complained that human forces did not follow proper military protocol. One admiral had written, "These creatures fight like the universe itself is their weapon." They still don't understand us, Elena said. They think we're just unusually violent. They don't realize we're fighting a completely different kind of war. The truth was that humans had revolutionized warfare in just 6 months. They had taken everything they learned from the ancient archives and combined it with captured alien technology. The result was a military force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships could repair themselves using scavenged materials. Human soldiers could turn any environment into a fortress. Human engineers could build weapons from the wreckage of their own destroyed equipment. Commander, Torres interrupted, we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Martinez. Elena walked to the communication station. Admiral Martinez commanded the human forces pushing toward the core Zephyrian systems. His voice came through clearly despite the vast distance. Elena, we've made contact with the Zephyrian home fleet. They're offering to negotiate. Elena raised her eyebrows. Negotiate? After everything they've done to us? That's what I told them. But they seem desperate. They're claiming they want to discuss terms for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. Elena thought for a moment. The Zephyrians had enslaved humanity for 300 years. They had treated humans like animals. They had destroyed Earth's environment and killed billions of people. Now they wanted to negotiate because they were losing. What are our casualty reports? Elena asked. Minimal, Martinez replied. We've lost less than 1,000 people in 6 months of fighting. The Zephyrians have lost entire fleets. This was another thing that shocked the aliens. Humans were winning the war with remarkably few losses. They fought smarter, not just harder. They used technology and tactics that minimized their own casualties while maximizing enemy losses. Admiral, Elena said, tell the Zephyrians that humanity is not interested in negotiations. We tried peace for 300 years. Now we're trying war. Understood, Commander. Martinez out. Elena turned back to the tactical display. The war was going better than anyone had hoped. Human forces were advancing on multiple fronts. Zephyrian resistance was collapsing faster than their military leaders could organize new defenses. But Elena knew the real victory would not come until they reached the Zephyrian homeworld. That was where their leadership lived. That was where the decisions had been made to enslave humanity. Sarah, Elena said. How long until our new weapon systems are ready? Sarah smiled. The quantum torpedoes will be operational next week. The dimensional disruptors are still in testing, but they should be ready within a month. These were weapons based on technology from the ancient human archives. The original designers had never finished them before the Zephyrian invasion. Now human scientists were completing work that had been interrupted 3 centuries ago. And the special project? Sarah's smile became wider. The planet breaker will be ready in 2 months. When we reach the Zephyrian homeworld, we'll have the option to destroy it completely. Elena nodded. She hoped it would not come to that. But if the Zephyrians refused to surrender, humanity was prepared to end the war permanently. A new message appeared on the communication system. This one came from deep space, near the edge of Zephyrian territory. Elena read it carefully, then called for the attention of her bridge crew. People, she announced, I have news from our scout ships. They've made contact with other alien civilizations beyond Zephyrian space. The bridge became quiet. Everyone wanted to hear this. These aliens have been watching our war with great interest. They're sending ambassadors to meet with human representatives. It seems that news of our victories has spread throughout the galaxy. Elena paused, thinking about what this meant. For 300 years, the Zephyrians told us we were weak and primitive. They said humans could never be a major power in the galaxy. They were wrong. We're not just defeating them. We're becoming the dominant military force in this region of space. Elena looked out at the stars, thinking about what lay ahead. The war with the Zephyrians was almost over, but humanity's expansion into the galaxy was just beginning. Other alien species would have to decide how they wanted to deal with this new human empire. They could choose cooperation or conflict, but after seeing what happened to the Zephyrians, Elena suspected most would choose cooperation. The reckoning was nearly complete. Soon humanity would rule the stars that had once been denied to them, and the galaxy would learn to respect the fury of Earth's children. Elena stood in the observation deck of humanity's flagship, looking down at Zephyr Prime. The Zephyrian homeworld hung in space like a blue and silver jewel. For thousands of years, this planet had been the center of an empire that controlled dozens of star systems. Today, it would fall to human forces. The war had lasted exactly 1 year. In that time, humanity had gone from enslaved workers to the dominant military power in the galaxy. Every Zephyrian fleet had been destroyed or captured. Every alien colony had surrendered or been conquered. Now only the homeworld remained. Commander, called Captain Torres from the bridge. All fleet elements are in position. We have 500 ships ready for the final assault. Elena smiled at the number. 1 year ago, humans had possessed no ships at all. Now they commanded a fleet that made alien admirals wake up screaming. Every vessel had been captured from the Zephyrians and improved with human technology. What's the status of the planetary defenses? Elena asked. Minimal resistance expected. Most of their military was destroyed in the outer system battles. The government is requesting permission to surrender. Elena thought about this. The Zephyrian leadership wanted to surrender now that they had lost everything. They wanted mercy from the species they had enslaved for 300 years. Open a channel to the planetary government, Elena ordered. The holographic image of the Zephyrian High Chancellor appeared in the center of the observation deck. The alien looked old and defeated. Behind him, Elena could see other government officials. They all looked terrified. Human Commander, the Chancellor said in careful English, we wish to discuss terms for our surrender. We are prepared to offer reparations for past conflicts. Elena stepped forward so the alien could see her clearly. High Chancellor, my name is Commander Elena Vasquez. I represent the Human Federation. She paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. The Human Federation. Not a rebellion. Not a resistance movement. A new galactic power. 300 years ago, Elena continued, your people invaded human space. You destroyed our colonies. You enslaved our population. You treated us like animals. The Chancellor shifted uncomfortably. Those were different times. The previous government made decisions that we now regret. Regret, Elena repeated. You regret enslaving an entire species. You regret destroying our homeworld. You regret 3 centuries of murder and oppression. Commander, please. We are willing to make amends. We can provide compensation. We can relocate our population to other worlds. Just please show mercy. Elena looked at the alien for a long moment. She thought about her grandmother, who had died in a Zephyrian labor camp. She thought about the billions of humans who had suffered under alien rule. She thought about Earth still scarred and wounded from 3 centuries of abuse. High Chancellor, she said finally, do you know what humans call mercy? The alien shook his head. Victory without genocide. Your people are defeated. Your empire is gone. Your military is destroyed. But you are still alive. That is mercy. Elena gestured to Captain Torres, who activated the fleet communication system. Her voice now carried to every human ship in the system. All vessels begin the occupation of Zephyr Prime. Standard protocol. Secure all government facilities. Arrest all military and political leaders. Begin the process of planetary integration. She turned back to the Chancellor. Your people will be relocated to designated worlds within human space. You will be given adequate resources to rebuild your civilization under human oversight. That is more than you ever offered to humanity. The transmission ended. Elena watched as human landing ships descended toward the planet's surface. The last Zephyrian stronghold was falling without a fight. Commander, Torres said, we're receiving signals from across the galaxy. Alien governments are sending congratulations on our victory. Several species are requesting formal diplomatic relations. Elena nodded. This was expected. Throughout the war, other alien civilizations had been watching. They had seen the Zephyrians, once considered the most powerful military force in the region, utterly destroyed by a species they had thought was primitive. Now those same aliens wanted to be friends with humanity. Set up meetings with their ambassadors, Elena ordered. But make it clear that humanity sets the terms for any agreements. She walked to the main viewing window and looked out at the stars. In just 1 year, everything had changed. Humans were no longer slaves. They were no longer victims. They had become the power that other species feared and respected. Elena thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. It had started with a single device hidden in an old satellite. Now it had ended with the conquest of an entire galactic region. But Elena knew this was not really an ending. It was a beginning. Human ships were already exploring beyond Zephyrian space. They were making contact with alien civilizations that had never heard of Earth. They were establishing colonies on worlds that had been empty for millions of years. Ma'am, Torres interrupted her thoughts. We're receiving a message from the exploration fleet at the Galactic Rim. Admiral Chen says they've discovered something interesting. Elena turned from the window. What kind of something? They've found evidence of an ancient civilization. Ruins on a dozen different worlds. Technology that's more advanced than anything we've seen. This was intriguing. During their expansion, human forces had encountered several alien species. Most were less advanced than the Zephyrians. A few were roughly equal, but none had technology that surpassed what humans now possessed. Send orders to Admiral Chen. I want full investigation teams dispatched to those ruins. If there's advanced technology out there, I want to know about it. Elena had learned an important lesson from the war with the Zephyrians. The galaxy was full of surprises. Civilizations could rise and fall. Technology could be lost and rediscovered. Humans had to be prepared for anything. Commander, Torres said, the planetary occupation is complete. Zephyr Prime is now under human control. Elena looked down at the planet one more time. The world that had once ruled an empire was now just another human colony. The species that had enslaved humanity was now under human protection. It was a complete reversal of the galactic order. Elena activated the fleet communication system one final time. Her message would be recorded and sent to every human colony, every allied alien world, and every neutral civilization in known space. Citizens of the Human Federation, she began. Today marks the end of the Zephyrian War and the beginning of a new age. She paused, thinking about how to express what this moment meant. For 300 years, humanity was told we were weak. We were told we were primitive. We were told we would never be more than slaves and servants to superior alien races. Elena smiled as she continued. Today we have proven them wrong. We have shown the galaxy that humans are not weak. We are not primitive. We are the children of Earth, and we do not accept defeat. She looked out at the fleet around her. 500 ships crewed by humans who had once been slaves, warriors who had learned to fight by studying ancient archives, engineers who had surpassed alien technology in a single year. The galaxy is vast and there are many civilizations we have yet to meet. Some will be friends, some will be enemies, but all of them will know this: humanity has awakened. We have remembered our strength, and we will never be slaves again. Elena ended the transmission and walked back to the bridge. There was work to do, new worlds to explore, new civilizations to contact, new challenges to overcome. But she was not worried about the future. Humans had proven they could overcome any obstacle. They had shown they could turn any situation into an advantage. They had demonstrated that the fury of Earth could indeed shatter the stars. Elena looked at the tactical display showing human territory. It now covered 43 star systems and included 6 different alien species. In 1 year, humanity had built an empire, and this was just the beginning. The galaxy was large, full of wonders and dangers. But Elena was confident that whatever humanity encountered, they would face it as they had always faced challenges. Together. Determined. Unstoppable. The fury of Earth had been unleashed upon the stars, and the universe would never be the same.